How you doing, Ann?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just using the dossier as toilet paper these days, as apparently everybody else is. I love your headline.
Thank you. No, it's clear in my book, Resistance is Futile, how every one of these, the alleged building blocks of the Russian collusion, they all turned out to be nothing. But the left, the resistance, the media will never say, oh yeah, we got that one wrong. Mm-hmm. You can forget about Jeff Sessions perjuring himself or Carter Page being the centerpiece of the Russian collusion story. No, it's always, I don't remember what happened with that.
Right.
That thing was rained out. And so they just keep wheeling them out. They'll wait. You think, okay, finally we're done with, the GOP changed platform, for example, which Byron York has explained 1 million times. The platform wasn't changed. It was some nutty woman from Texas who visited Ukraine once and had a whopper of an amendment,
right.
which the delegates quite reasonably cut down. But the dossier, what was interesting and what was fun about writing my book is that because I am swimming in liberal media, I started to notice things, and when I go back on Nexus to see what the exact same people were saying about the exact same issues, scandals, in this case dossier, wow, 180 degrees switch. The dossier was the funnest one because for the first 10 months, that's the sleazy Russian dossier compiled by a foreign agent using being paid by Hillary Clinton to do so and gather gossip and dirt on Hillary Clinton's political opponent from current and former Russian officials. So we found our Russian collusion, gentlemen. We have it right here. But for the first 10 months, people tend to forget this because you just go with the flow of the news. The first 10 months after the dossier came out, we didn't know who had funded it.
That's right.
And in point of fact, the media was aggressively, I would say, lying, at least misleading us about who had paid for it. Remember all that chit-chat?
The Republicans did it.
Yes, it was a Republican donor, Oh, it was just a concerned citizen. Nothing to see here. And so for the first 10 months, apparently many in the media in fact, did not know that it was nothing but Hillary Clinton and DNC-funded Oppo research, and I might add, and Russian collusion. So they kept trying they so wanted the dossier to be true. They so wanted it to be true. They could taste it. They dreamed about it. So they would try to bootstrap the FBI's use of the dossier, the dossier's use to get a FISA warrant on Carter Page and so on and so forth, to prove the credibility of the dossier. Consequently, at the end of 10 months, they just dropped it like a hot potato. And I don't know why you people keep talking about the dossier. Why do Republicans think the dossier was used to get a FISA warrant on Carter Page? Well, for 2 months, that was the headline breaking news on CNN.
Yeah.
They thought it was great that the dossier was used to get a FISA warrant on Carter Page. But in order to prove the truth of the dossier, it was Chris Cuomo and
right.
Rachel Maddow and Chris Matthews, all the rest of them saying, well, FBI believed the dossier, the urinating prostitute story must be true. This shows it's credible. Then we find out Hillary Clinton opposition research, and the FBI is running away from it, saying we didn't rely on it at all. We have no idea where you got this idea. You're crazy Republicans. So the side-by-side quotes in that chapter are a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll bet they are. Well, look, when you talk about hypocrisy, I was sitting here, like you, I look back and see what's being said at different times. All I heard during the initial stages of this investigation was that Michael Flynn violated the Logan Act. And yesterday, I'm forced to watch John Kerry on multiple television programs talking about how he met 4 times with Iranian officials after he left office and when Secretary Mike Pompeo was actually the Secretary of State. So that's a direct violation of the Logan Act. But have you heard a single member of the media talk about it?
No, it was hilarious when the Michael Flynn violation of the Logan Act first came up, which is preposterous. He's working for a president-elect.
Right.
Obama would have wanted him to talk to the Russians during that period. Of course, the president-elect, the man who's about to assume the office, of course, his underlings. There was nothing illegal about it, but it was hilarious watching all these bubblehead anchors act as if after quickly checking on Wikipedia, as if they had always known about the Logan Act. Oh, our precious Logan Act. It was probably from James Madison's pen, the dear Logan Act. Oh, good grief. How about Jesse Jackson? Remember when he flew to Libya or something to get some hostages out? And Teddy Kennedy, it's in my book, but you can't mention it often enough.
He colluded with the Russians.
Writing to Andropov to try to oppose Ronald Reagan.
That's right. He did collude with the Russians, but no mention to be made of it.
Right.
Well,
that's why it's fun to have Nexus.
Yeah, and believe me, I don't have the greatest memory on earth, but I certainly sat there watching John Kerry, and all I could think of was the testimony that he gave in front of Congress back in 1971 or 72, and how he sat there and bold-faced turned his back on every member of the military. And now I'm watching him talk about how he thinks that he has a right to go over to meet with Iranian. Like, can't we take away his passport or something?
I suppose we could, though it would be far less entertaining, and that's principally what we're getting out of the resistance these days.
I guess, but I had a guest on from FACT earlier in the day. They have a crowdsource funding page to bribe Senator Collins in Maine. That's, they do.
Oh, yeah, that was a great point you made.
Yeah, that's illegal.
That's a really good point. Certainly under the Trump era standards of criminal law, there's no question but this is a bribe. I mean, this is what you're describing is kind of the equivalent of the Russian dossier.
Yeah.
We got something on you. We're gonna punish you if you don't do everything we say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
it looks like Collins is standing strong. The real battle royale that will make World War II and even the 17-year Afghanistan war look like a walk on the beach is going to be when Ruth Bader Ginsburg goes and Trump gets to replace her. Whoa, get ready for that one.
Yeah.
Store up supplies. We'll be going to the mattresses on that one.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that, that the Republican Party, in spite of itself, manages to hold on to these houses because...
I know. It's bad.
It's bad. I mean, look at my guy. Look at my guy here. You and I were all gung-ho. Ron DeSantis, yabba, yabba, yabba. I did everything I could to get this guy, the nomination.
Yeah. You've been talking about him forever.
Forever. And then he picks Jeanette Nunes to be his lieutenant governor. Here's a woman who, championed and finally got passed an in-state tuition act for illegal aliens. She's an open border.
I was with you when that passed. Do you remember? We were at a Tea Party meeting.
Yes, we were. And now this is who he selects. I mean, they don't know how to win. They could have victory within their grip.
Disappointing.
Yeah, it's very disappointing because, as I said, how do I motivate voters?
This is the most frustrating thing, since it's now looking like we're not getting a wall. The one thing we ought to be able to get out of Trump, well, as I say in Resistance is Futile, a total destruction of the mainstream media, and that would be fantastic. But the other thing is it ought to be a prototype. His 2016 campaign, there's so many lessons.
Yeah.
Well, two big ones. Actually, one big one that can be stated in one sentence. You don't need money, Republicans. You need popular ideas.
Exactly.
That's all Trump had. He never backed down. His genius was choosing policies that would drive the media absolutely bananas. So they talk about it nonstop as if, well, case closed. No one can be for him now that he's come out for a Muslim ban. And then it turned out that the vast majority of the voters support it.
Nice.
So the media gave him Trump massive coverage for his popular policies because they were unpopular with a very small group of people, the media.
That's right. Yeah, well, that's why I say, and instead of turning to the ones who brought him to the dance, in the case of Ron DeSantis and other elected officials in Florida, they go running up to Washington to get advice on how to win a campaign down here, and they blow it completely. Andy Gillum is now 4 points ahead of Ron DeSantis. We're talking about a guy who couldn't run the city of Tallahassee.
Yes, no, this is very depressing. Please remember Ron DeSantis. Whenever the media said that Trump was going to be wiped out with Hispanic voters, this latest thing, I'm sure you've talked about, but their latest attempt to throw open our borders and ruin the country with children are being separated from their parents through that whole period. You notice how they just dropped it, even though their parents are still being separated? Because not only did Trump's approval ratings go up, they went up mostly with Hispanics.
Right. Hey, listen, I'm convinced you got to you got to speak to people to where they are in their economics and where they are socially. That's the environment we're in now. We don't have any big looming threat. I know Russian collusion is an obsession for the media, but for the most part, not a single voter is worried about Russia today. They are worried about their mortgage and sending their kids to schools where they can't learn because English is a second language.
Yes.
That affects the voters, but I can't seem to get through to these guys. We just keep trying, Look at Center for Immigration.
We are so much like Lucy and the football.
We are. Look at
poor Charlie. They're Lucy. The issues are the football.
Yeah, you're right. You remember all the people we were up with last week in Washington from the Center for Immigration Studies? Did you see that Twitter doesn't allow them to send out anything that uses the term illegal alien or criminal alien? It's hate speech. It's actually a legal term.
In the law.
Yeah.
That's how statutes are written.
Yeah. Well, don't confuse them with facts.
Wow.
I know. Well, anyway, always a pleasure. You're coming down for November 2nd. We're going to have a big book signing at Aaron's table. He's a former chef from the Mar-a-Lago. So at least we know the food will be great, and certainly meeting Ann and getting her book will be great. So we got more information on that coming up. Thank you, Ann. It was fun hanging out.
Good to talk to you, Joyce.
All right. Talk to you soon.